No,
But
people always say about me, you're the jock of all trades, but master of none. Um, I think the rest of the sentence is like, I'd rather be master of some than master of none. I think that's the rest of the sentence nobody ever says. So I'm just very curious. Part of it is, part of my expansive knowledge comes from being a survivor in New York City. Because you're in New York City, someone says, "Hey, can you tile my bathroom?" And I'm like, the rent's due. Yeah, I can tile a bathroom, and then I'll figure out how to do it. That's how I got a lot of variety of skills. Basically, being in New York for nearly 30 years, and then also curiosity, which is extremely important. I say for any maker, any young person, is just to be curious about a lot of stuff. Whatever it is, figure it out. Like, oh, how does this camera work? How does this tool work? How does this method work? How does leather work? How does this work? Just be curious, and the person that's curious is the one that's going to have more skills faster, or at least be willing to try. I tell my students all the time, if you're at a job and you're in a brainstorming session for some sort of production, whether it's packaging design or a TV show or whatever, and they're like, and you go, oh, well, you could do this. And they're like, wait, what is that? How do you know that? Oh, because my teacher inspired me to try and figure everything out. How do you know about it? Right, you're on the case. Now all of a sudden you went from being an intern to being Johnny on the spot because you have that little inkling of curiosity, of knowledge about whatever that is. Timing and being in the right place at the right time is always important, but being prepared for an opportunity with lots of different curious interests is really important.
uh,
Well, the problem is there's so much information so fast,
mm,
and it's like if I can spend my whole life playing the violin, I know I have dexterity. I could immediately do model building. It's just a matter of getting the few basic technological things in order. So if I can program, I could probably figure out any pretty much any CNC machine. I see guys like my friend Brett here can work on a computer. He can figure out any other computer. So there's all this parallel learning that could take place a lot faster than it used to be able to because he used to be an expert in just that. And nobody would even consider, but like everybody would stay in their lane. Now everyone has the opportunity to go into every lane, and it's a lot easier to go into somebody else's lane because the technology is so shared. It's like it used to be like people used to covet their Rolodexes. Now it's like, oh wait, I just wait till the end of a credit shows on a TV show, and it's like, oh, Joe Blow Productions. I Google Joe Blow Productions, and I'm already on the phone with Joe Blow, like within 10 seconds of the show ending. So anything you need or desire or have a curiosity in, you could get right up to. People always say, why do I need a Twitter account? Somebody in like this active social media world. Oh, I have Instagram, I have this, I have that. I'm like, yeah, you have a Twitter account. You could email anybody in the world publicly, and chances are they'll read it. Whether they answer you back or not, that's a shot in the dark. But you can't Instagram them. If you just basically Twitter is like public email for anybody in the world, even if it's a corporation. You say, "Hey Apple, I broke my phone. I have a very special story." You might end up on the front page of Apple News. Who knows? So everything is just like short circuited now. Learning, contacting, getting involved. It's all short circuited, and more so than it was 20 years ago. When I was a student, I always knew I wanted to make films, but I said I don't have all the film students did was wear patchouli and go around trying to beg for money to make their 5-minute film. You're in the film business, right?
I used to
Why do
be.
all film students wear patchouli? And they
The
all thought they were being so original.
I I, I actually believe it's because they were just so tired they didn't bathe.
That's probably the truth. But they were always running around trying to raise 100 grand for a 10-minute film, which now you're making on your phone. I can make on this phone. Raina is 15 years old. She can make a movie in 5 minutes on her phone. So that's why the world is so different now.
You know,
What I do is I watch it in pieces, like
mm,
because my computer isn't so quick on the regeneration before I render it. So I'll watch these few seconds, then I'll watch these few seconds, and sometimes I'm like just to watch between cuts. I'll literally just, and then the visual changes, then I follow that visual for a second. Like, okay, that's cool. Let me jump to another piece, and I work on my edits in sections at a time. And then when I feel like basically I've looked at every little section of the timeline a little bit at a time and overlapped all those visions in my mind, I know it'll string together, so I just hit render.
hmm
And I'll kind of watch it quickly while I'm sipping a coffee or eating a bowl of cereal at 4 in the morning. And I'll be like, man, it looks pretty good. All right, I'll publish it. And then I'll get a call from somebody that goes, you just posted your password online, did you know? Because I filmed something, I didn't realize my password was written on something.
fantastic.
So I always kind of just vaguely search for any any reveals that shouldn't be revealed, any private conversations that get caught up in the audio or something like that. Yeah, for sure. Because like I'm experimenting with things like this thing that you're on top of there. I'm experimenting with all kinds of things that it's like now I got to feed this lion. I got to really make sure that the lion is fed, and I have to every week come up with some interesting content. And now having my vlog, it's like having it's like having a TV series like 60 Minutes. Like I'm always constantly hustling to try and get the good scoop, or meet the cool guy, or get the nerve up to interview this somebody. There are weeks in a row where I'm like kind of like I feel like my content's a little like on the drag, but once in a while, like I just went to Puerto Rico and I can't help but shoot some cool visuals, and I put that video together like on the fly between socializing with everybody. So I'd be like spend 10 minutes and put together a minute or two, and then spend 10 minutes alone and put together another 5 minutes. So that was a little difficult to edit. If I had some more free time, that would have come out differently, I know. But yeah, it's definitely made me a better film editor, a film storyteller, and a more adventurous maker. Like I never would have got into CNCs, or I'm trying to crack the code of like plasma CNC now. I'll figure that all out, but it takes time. But I never would have done it. I would have been just like, nah, I don't need to do that. I mean, now I have to do it because I'm not going to make picture frames every video. I got to do something different. I've always had this mentality of like I guess it's sort of like a survivalist, again, being in New York and taking on car payments and rents and mortgages and all this stuff. You just gotta gotta kind of chasing your tail and making sure you're getting paid to pay for things. I've always been like, if all else goes to pot, I could still. Me and my brother always said it. We could always go back to digging ditches. So like if you keep going further and further out on the limb, taking more risks to try and get more gain. If the branch breaks, you could land in a pile of tools and just work your way back up the tree, and you could always go back to digging ditches. So we always had that mentality, so we were never afraid to take chances. My brother Joey and I, and even my brother John, the actor, we've always had that mentality of like, let's take a chance. If all else fails, we'll just go back to just selling stuff at the flea market or whatever it is.
I think you don't have to worry about your branch. I think you got a mighty oak that you built.
Thank you.
And it's been absolutely inspirational to be around here in this space, not just for the tools and for all the rest of it, but the thing that I was making note of last night was the vibe. There's an energy in your workspace that is just so opening and so inviting.
Oh, thank you.
That it doesn't surprise me that people are willing to travel halfway around the world.
Australia.
Oh, well, not just Australia, but I'm sure if you could, they'd come from the moon. So,
right.
so it's a pretty unique thing.
They just discovered 7 new planets.
Right.
I can't wait to see who comes.
I'm from the 6th.
Right on.
No problems. Thanks a lot, Jimmy.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Thank you very much. Sound.
Don.
We're filming an interview. We really are.
You want me to leave?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm ruining all my planes one at a time. Who was cutting plastic on the lathe and didn't clean up?
I didn't use it.
You didn't use the lathe?
No, I'd love to.
You didn't use the lathe with a plastic cutter? What was you using my lathe with a
That's a
plastic?
plastic cutter.
There was a cutoff wheel that I never used on that thing. Could have been here.
I haven't ever used your lathes. Except
Okay.
that once in the beginning. I'd
All
like
right,
to.
leave. Thank you. I love you.